Welcome back to the Table Rush Talk Show, where we dive deep into the world of entrepreneurship, marketing, and personal growth. I'm your host, Mischa Zvagantsov, and today's guest is Tyler Dunagin, the visionary CEO behind TurnServe, a platform revolutionizing multifamily property services. With a staggering 979% growth rate, TurnServe has earned a spot on the Inc. 5000 list and secured significant investment from Cowlig Capital. Tyler's innovative approach has led to the creation of multiple seven-figure brands, including ApartmentPainters.com, LiquidLiner.com, and ApartmentFlooring.com. He's here to share how he builds scalable systems and a culture that fuels exponential growth. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Wow, well said. I need you to do all of my PR and intros for me because you nailed it.
Amazing. Thank you so very much. You know, I hear that a lot, and at some point, I am going to market that skill set. At some point, I'm going to do it.
I'll be your first customer. Sign me up. Now, it's great to be here. I'm excited to talk to you today. I just can't wait to get into it.
Amazing. So, Tyler, for those unfamiliar with TurnServe, can you share what your company does and the unique value it brings to the multifamily housing industry?
Yeah, of course. So high level, so we are a collective of service companies and products. And, I call it my playground. In a nutshell, what we do is we provide value to some of the largest multifamily property managers in the U.S. Between renters is called the art of a turn. And it's not art, it is a headache. And what we do is we come in after a renter leaves. We'll do the flooring, the painting, you name it. We'll get it rent ready for the next person. And then, the next renter will come in and we're good to go. That's it boiled down. We do that through some of our subsidiary brands. We have a couple of supply management companies that we've started as well. We own a patented product, and we just try to make a massive impact to our multifamily clients, their tenants, and our team members. And what's different about us is we bring an enterprise level solution that's quick, dependable, while also doing some quality work. And we do it at scale. It's such a fragmented market, and it's hard to get a lot of people in order to handle all the turnover needs. And we pride ourselves on being able to keep up with these property managers' needs and getting their buildings rent ready between renters. In a nutshell, that's who we are.
Amazing. I have this whole script that I was going to go through, but I'm going to go off script already right out of the gate. I hate to do it, but I'm going to do it.
Let's do it. I'll join you on this.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, we just talked for a minute briefly before we hit start here, and you're up to a lot of fun stuff over and outside of TurnServe. When you come on here to guest speak on this podcast or the podcast that you guest speak on, is the main goal to get awareness on TurnServe, or are you more, let's just go with it, I just want to put myself out there? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So to answer it, and I think I understand where you're coming from. The biggest thing I'm trying to do is just spread awareness and make an impact. And no matter what we do channel wise, so I'm here to mention what I do on TurnServe side of the street, because that's where, a lot of my fun happens. But through my other ventures, so all of my holdings, DunaginCollective.com is the way I reach out to other entrepreneurs, collaborate with them, and just share my story, my interests, my business pursuits, you name it. Because what I've learned is it's such a small pool of people, and we don't always have a lot of options or opportunities to connect with others. And so my goal, and to answer your question, is put myself out there and get in front of people. And if I could add value to somebody, that's my goal. And if I can take value away from somebody, that's also the goal. So we could focus on either one of those today, but really this is a big thing is I just want to see and talk to people that want to make an impact.
I love it. That's great perspective. Excuse me. I think what we will do first is we'll dive a little bit deeper into TurnServe and how you serve and perhaps how you've been able to grow things like that at such an astounding rate. And then we can go into the broader, I don't want to say existential stuff, but more like, hey, yeah, like what's going on, your DunaginCollective.com stuff, more of just sharing your journey and your broader inspiration, maybe.
That sounds great. Let's do it.
Awesome. So tell me when did you start your company? TurnServe here?
2018 was when I officially launched the LLC. And I say that because I was in single family real estate prior to that. I was in corporate America, managing properties. And then Turn was just a continuation of my efforts in single family, meaning the opportunity at scale in multifamily. And then I launched the company solving my own issues in the corporate America space because I couldn't find anybody to do it. So I had to build out the company, and it officially launched in the February of 2018.
So you're in the corporate arena, and what are you doing in the corporate arena? So if I understand you correctly, it was corporate, then you dove into single family rentals, something like that. Then you launched TurnServe to solve all these problems in 2018. I've got the general arc right.
Yeah, I'll give you the high level review here. So I was doing family real estate, like house flipping and whatnot. It was cool, but I built myself a very busy job, and I started every morning either at Home Depot or at a job site that was like half built or half dilapidated. And I just realized that was my world, and I had more to give. And so I talked to a mentor, and I said, "Hey, I need to do something a little bit bigger, and I'm proud of what I'm doing here, but I feel like I could do a little bit larger and do a little bit more." And he actually encouraged me to learn multifamily. The only thing is, I didn't know anything about multifamily, and I told him that. And he says, "Hey, just start consulting for one of these property management companies, learn everything you can about it." And so that was my segue from single family to multifamily. And while I was in multifamily, I started off just learning the basics of leasing operations and occupancy to management and maintenance and all these kind of things. Well, the person I was working for actually approached me and he says, "Hey, I'm actually going to fire the management company that you're consulting with, and I'm going to figure things out on my own." And I said, "Hey, I really appreciate, the opportunity. Thank you so much." And I thought it was the end of the road. And he says, "No, no, you're misunderstanding me. I'm firing them and hiring you. You can build me out my management company and we'll figure it out." And so I went from having zero experience in multifamily to really just getting thrown into the deep end and helping somebody build out a management company for around $250 million worth of multifamily assets, over 2,000 doors. And so right away, I figured out how to swim in that water in the multifamily property management space. And when I was in that, that's when I saw a lot of opportunity, and I was trying to build services and solutions to solve my own needs. And when I realized that it was such a tractionable and needed thing to exist, I left corporate America and just dove straight into what would be TurnServe in 2018.
I got you. So this is so interesting. You're flipping houses. You're probably crawling underneath houses, looking at
Yeah,
plumbing, like,
literally, yes.
yeah, in attics, dealing with electric, and
Yeah,
yes, and
covered in insulation, everything.
yeah, and anybody who's crawled under a house, who knows what you find.
Yeah, it's not fun.
You know what, too? Plumbers always have that unique plumbing smell. I don't know what it is. Is it like the tape, or is it the grease that you got to put on the connectors? What is it?
Yeah, it's gotta be like, the pipe glue, right? The OD pipe glue that they put on it. I think it's probably a combination of that, but it's also probably just like secondhand smell from like the septic that they have to be around a little bit. So it's mostly like it smells like construction in childhood, but some of it probably smells like something you don't wanna be around.
What's the craziest thing you've seen in an attic when you went to look at electricity?
Oh, mannequins. And I say that because I would go into vacant houses, right? I work with investors that would buy houses that couldn't sell, or they would just needed a ton of work, or they've been abandoned for years. And there would be times where I walked in and I would be terrified. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like you walk into a vacant house, nobody else around, and you just hope that nobody's there. And so once you kind of get over the jitters of that, well, one time I went up to the attic after I had made sure the foundation was good enough to walk around, and I opened up this little attic door. It was super dark, and you see nothing but silhouettes of people, and you're like terrified. You're frozen. And then once your eyes adjust, you realize that they're not moving. And that's when I realized that they were mannequins. So that was like one of the most prominent things that stick out in my mind when I was most terrified. And that beats out like finding like, I don't know, 6 feet of water in the basement or, just anything imaginable, the mannequins.
That is like literally the nightmares that we have, right? Like you
Yeah.
you go in an attic and you're like, Wait a minute, this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was able to answer it so fast because it stays rent free in my head.
That's amazing. All right, how about in the basement or underneath the floorboards? Craziest thing
Um,
there.
yeah, anything that comes to your imagination, you find. I think like the most odd things are sometimes it sucks to say, but sometimes you find like animal remains and you're not sure like what they are. And like you're poking around and like they've been there for a while. And some of these animals are quite large. And you ask yourself, like, hey, am I coming across like a crime scene here? And so that side, that's never fun. A lot of the times it's things that have just been misplaced or dropped or had fallen underneath of there. Some cool things too, like you find like old like Coke bottles and like and whatnot, just some old memorabilia type of things. So you never know what you're going to find. I guess it's half the fun, and it's definitely half like the nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in real estate for a bit. I was a home loan officer and for 15 years, so I have a ton of experience in the real estate business. But my favorite story is I was at a house. We were helping clean it out, and it was a hoarder's house. And
Oh man,
yeah, and we found a Coke bottle that had one of the twist tops, and then you could win something. You know how you have those kind of like those games. And so
yeah.
this empty Coke bottle had a twist top on it that was you won. It was like $7,500.
Oh wow,
Yes. But it was like 5 or 10 years old. It was crazy. And so it was
uh,
too late. But isn't that
yeah.
crazy?
That is crazy, man. That's incredible. Yeah, you never know what you're going to find in those hoarder houses. Like that's kind of scary in a lot of ways. But then there's also elements of it to where it's kind of fascinating because you have no idea what you're going to open up next.
Totally. I was thinking too, as you were describing the animal remains or droppings underneath the house, you're like, how does a deer live down here? Like, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible.
So So walk me through this. So someone says your mentor says, "Hey, Tyler, who is your mentor, by the way? Do you mind saying or anyone?"
No, I don't mind at all. I try to shout him out as much as possible. And I always say this, he didn't even realize what he was doing for me then, and that's probably the coolest part of this whole thing. David Heller of NRP Group was somebody that I leaned into when I was really feeling the pain in single family real estate. And he was the one that encouraged me, check out multifamily.
Okay, so he says go check out multifamily, and he says, and you're like, well, I don't know anything about it, and he says, well, go consult in it. And so wait a
Yeah.
minute, my brain's going, how does that work? I'm going to get paid, but I don't know anything, or wait, talk me through that. Yeah.
I really think that was his way of saying, get familiar enough, like do your own research and then be able to provide value even at the lowest level of like the multifamily rung just to get a start. And so when I was consulting, it was around leasing and renewals. So it was very, very like segmented, so to say. It was one element out of 1,000 in that space. And so that was my entrance to it. So I think, replaying it in my mind, I really think that he was encouraging me to learn enough about it to be able to add that value and then learn the rest from there. And it worked because I read everything that I could. I talked to people, you name it, and then I just kind of worked my way in and then up.
Amazing. And you literally started with leasing and renewals and said, I'm going
Yep.
deep on leasing and renewals, going to learn, going to try and add value.
Yes,
Okay.
I was legitimately like from the ground up, showing people apartments and going over things like marketing materials, making sure our online presence was all the way straightened out, and just checking our numbers, our funnel, like how are we doing, how are we performing, you name it. That I literally started at the ground floor.
That's incredible. I love that. And I love well, the willingness, the tenacity, the humbleness to do that. What's driving you at this point? Or newly married and you've got a child, or just
Yeah. So when I was in single family, I started that because I realized my dreams of NFL were gone. I played college football, I played semi-pro football. Then I found out I was having my first son. I have 3 sons today, by the way. And so I'm 34 for reference. I had and Trey he just turned 12. And so at this phase of my life, it was a transitionary period for me anyways, because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I couldn't bet on sports anymore, and I just knew I had to make money. And so what I leaned on was just, hey, you hear about real estate, it makes people wealthy. Let's see what this is about. And so that's initially what catapulted me into real estate. And it wasn't even just like in the pursuit of wealth. It was out of just a pursuit of making an income and saving for my family and whatnot. And so my big motivation at that phase was because my significant other, who I've been with almost 15 years now, walked in and said, "Hey, we have a curveball thrown at us, but we're excited, and you're going to be a dad." And I just remember like right away, just like my life changed like in 1 second. And I was so excited and I was terrified at the same time. But I took that and ran with it. And so that was my initial motivation to get into real estate at all. And then when I was trying to juggle being full-time dad, full-time house flipper / Home Depot shopper, that's when I realized there had to be more to the fold. And I had to figure out a way to systemize and scale and delegate. And I couldn't keep working 90 hours a week and achieve all my goals. And that, for me, it was an element of burnout, which ultimately pushed me into learning more about multifamily.
I love that. I mean, I hate it, but I love it. I think, yeah, I think that's a common turning point for lots of entrepreneurs, uh, where just overworked, underpaid, perhaps 90 hours a week. Wait, how am I going to scale this, or the vision of scaling your single family operation wasn't in alignment with
Yes.
with what you wanted to do.
Yeah. I couldn't see it. I couldn't see a pathway forward. And that's when you could endure quite a lot, especially when you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I kept on losing that light. I didn't know which way it was going. I didn't know if all of the, my efforts and some of the pain I was feeling would be prolonged indefinitely, or if there was an end to it. That's actually what had me encouraged me to reach out to David to talk to him a little bit, was just trying to get another perspective on it.
That's cool. Was that like a paid style coaching thing, or was David just super generous, or a combination, or?
Super generous, one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And for reference, and I say this just super proud just to even know him, but he's done some amazing things in around the investment space, around multifamily, and you name it. His company manages and builds and everything else, billions of dollars worth of real estate. He is, for lack of better words, and I don't know how he'd feel about me saying this. He's he's a big wig, and he's a big deal around Cleveland, Ohio. He's generous. He sits on a lot of charitable boards, and he's just an incredible person. And what I did was, I'll give you my entrepreneur playbook here, trying to get creative to access him, because I had nothing to give him. I had nothing that could be of value to him. And so I remember this. We'll go through this memory together. It's kind of cool. I actually downloaded an app for Chrome called Hunter.io. And what that does is you could get people's email addresses. Like if they have a company page, you could go to that company page and like use that app, and it'll tell you like, hey, most likely this is the email. This is the email. And just on a whim, I was like, man, like, all right. And I remember Googling like multifamily management or something like that, or like around me, and NRP was at the top, his company. And I just remember being on his page, and I'm like, wow, this guy's fascinating. I learned everything I could about him, all these kind of things. And I just remember one day I just sent him a cold email, and I kept it real short and sweet. I said, hey, I'm in single family real estate. I feel like there's more to give. If you have any sort of like, recommendations, or can we talk about something like next steps here, I would love to do that. He emailed me back like 2 days later. And I remember looking at the email. I'm like, there's no way this guy responded to me. And that's how it started. And then he introduced me. We had a good phone call. He brought me to his office. I met him and some of his board members and some of his team and whatnot. And it was just a really cool segue. And I think that he was doing a lot more for me than I was asking at the time. And he knew that it had nothing to do with a transaction or anything else like that. He just knew I needed some guidance. And luckily it was around the concept of like, hey, can we do anything together? And then he was the one that kind of pushed me into to really think a little bit larger than I was. So that's how I met David early on. I don't even know if he knows that. So David, if you're listening, that's how I met you. You're great, man. So
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story.
yeah.
It's so inspirational. So you someone hires you and says, you're my guy. what did he see in you? Or walk me through that. You kind of glossed over that. I'm
Yeah. So I think, I hit the ground running pretty hard. This is either my best thing or my worst thing, but I tend to like dwell into things and throw myself all the way into them. When I'm curious about something, I tend to live there a little bit too long. And so this multifamily pursuit, I learned everything imaginable, and I was working just, keep in mind, I just left, working 90 hours a week. And so if somebody said, "Hey, work 60 hours a week," I'm like, "Oh, thank you." So I was just showing up and going. I really think that I picked things up quickly. Keep in mind, I was running a small business before that. I knew the space a little bit, not crazy, but at least the maintenance and whatnot side of things. And I think what kind of transpired there was like I was just a high performer, like kind of early on. And then every time that I met him or some people around him, I was always just doing my job. I remember like the three times that like I would run into him or something like that. And it was just like I was constantly putting my head down and going and trying to make things work. And keep in mind, at that time, I was working with a management company that was managing his properties. So I was learning all I could. And I think that just constantly, they were probably giving reports like, "Hey, like Tyler's sales are here, the leasing's here, it's kind of going upward here, he's saving us cost here." If me being on the business owner side, if I had an employee or an affiliate or somehow, some way that was doing that for my interest, so to say, I'm probably going to lean into them a little bit more and like think highly of them. And I think that's probably what this owner ended up doing when he approached me and said, "Hey, probably familiar with me just because he didn't have, it wasn't like a 1,000-person company. It was like a 25-person company. And I was constantly like the highest performer. And I was willing to work extra and work late, work weekends, you name it." And that probably kind of like resonated with him a little bit. And then when this whole transition thing was going on, when he wanted to fire the company I was working with technically on his portfolio, he probably realized that I was maybe the gem that he'd been looking for. And he knew my background in single family. He knew I could speak the language a little bit, at least. And that's probably what kind of like made him have a conversation with me, at least. So at least that's what I assume. I don't know. I never really ask him.
That's awesome. I think it speaks your story, what you just said, speaks to working hard, keeping the customer's best interest in mind, having a service mindset. I hear
Yep.
so much of this serve, have a service mindset. And I
Yeah.
think that's easy to say, but hard to execute on.
Well said. I agree with that 1,000%. Yeah. It's because it's never verbal, right? It's always an action. So when you want to serve others, it's one thing to say you're doing it or you've done it, but just actually showing that you're doing it is truly what it translates to. So if you focus on the action side of things, everything else will follow, in my opinion.
You think, I think too, it's important to differentiate between like overworking, but maybe working intentionally or with purpose. Or does that make sense when I'm saying that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can speak to that a little bit. Because I have an initial thought on that. So I mentioned before, like I tend to throw myself into things a little bit deeper because my curiosity is pretty high. I have a pretty high work ethic, right? And I just remember like I constantly just kept on like finding myself just like spinning my wheels, even when I didn't have to. And it was tough for me to really like turn on, turn off. I read a book by Cal Newport called Deep Work, and that book changed my life because I had all of this energy. I just had this desire to do more and just keep going. And when I read his book, it pretty much teaches the concept of compartmentalizing and also kind of like uh doing burst of high activity and then rest, burst of high activity and then rest. And so that taught me a rhythm and a cadence that kind of follows naturally to your own psychology of, "Hey, I'm going to put in a good hour here, uninterrupted, and I'm just going to take a 20, 30-minute break and then repeat." And then when I started doing that, my results started going through the roof because I was able to kind of contain it and reload and refresh and take a breath and then right back into it. So, yeah, but no, there's nothing else I can say outside of it. I worked my ass off and I still work hard today, but now I'm able to do more in 40 hours than most people can do in probably 80 just because I have very focused work. It's compartmentalized and I follow Cal Newport's advice to a T. So highly recommend if you've never read that book, check it out. That's the way to go.
Yeah, I love that concept. When I was in college, and I went from being effectively almost a high school dropout. I believe this is back in Jackson, Wyoming. I graduated 91 out of 92 at the bottom. and they let me out because they didn't want me back. Anyway, fast forward, I have an epiphany, get my life together, blah blah blah. But 4 or 5 years later, I'm off to college and kind of freaked out because I did so poorly in high school. And this counselor says, "Hey, this is what I want you to do. I want you to work or study for 45 minutes and then take a 15-minute break. Do 45 minutes on,
Yeah.
15 minutes off." And which speaks a little bit to what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quick, just walk me through your consulting. The gentleman hires you to consult for his big business, and then take me from there to starting TurnServe in 2018.
Yeah. So when I was working my way through corporate America and coming up with the management programs and all these kind of things, KPIs were good, had good results. I did the whole transition from third party to owner managed, and I really learned that space quite well. But the biggest issue I kept on having was finding enough reliable vendors, and the vendors being the painters that would come in, the people that would drop off dishwashers and everything else around that whole space, the cleaners and whatnot. And I was like, man, if we could only just button this one part of it up, everything's going to go real smooth. And so the numbers were good. Everything was really, really good. Keep in mind, I still had the single family house flipping thing watered down on the back end. Just like, just I had a couple houses still, and I had my small team. And I remember talking to the owner and I said, hey, I kind of want to try modifying one of my own construction guys and making them more like a hybrid, like modified maintenance tech. And I was like, we can't really find anybody to do these services fast enough for us. You feel okay with that? He's like, I don't care what you do. Just figure it out with accounting and just get it done. I said, okay. And so all I did was, at the time, whatever our average spend was, the accountants came back and said, hey, we normally spend this amount for painting. Normally spend this. I said, I don't even care about it. Just like, we'll match that. Like, we'll figure it out. And I had some of my own team come over and start doing these apartment turnovers. And then they got really good at it because all of an apartment is a big rectangle that's the same color, right? That's it. And so my team would come from single family, which had every unknown variable known to man, from deers in the crawl space to, mannequins in the attic. And now you tell them, come to this apartment complex that's air conditioned and it's a big rectangle, one color, one floor, nothing crazy, and it has parking. And they're there like they act like they're on vacation. And so I came up with these early processes like, hey, here's how we paint an apartment. Here's how we do this. Here's how we do this. And I would legitimately just spell out like all of the SOPs and like, hey, here's our goals. Here's the timing. Here's all this, guys. Let's see how it goes. And so on one hand, I was a property manager, and on the other hand, I was a vendor. And so that's kind of how I got the initial start. And then when I realized there was a lot more to be served on the vendor side to help update more people, because what I realized is I had friends in the space that were calling me and saying, hey, I heard that you're doing this. Could you guys come help us out, help us now? I said, sure, no problem. Like, here, I'll send my guys to your complex. We'll figure this out. And that was the initial early phase and shape of it. And it worked. And then it kept on working and working. And by this time, the transition from third party manager to owner manager that I was running was all the way done. And it was in a good spot. And I remember talking to the owner. I said, hey, kind of had this conviction where I need to go see if this works at scale, because it solves a lot of issues. And I was like, I'll be honest with you, you have managers here that could run the systems I built and you'll be fine. If you're okay with that, I want to try this full time. And he says, hey, that's fantastic. He's like, if you need a parachute to come back to, I'm here for you. He's like, this is always your home. And I said, wow. I was like, that's incredible. So now I have a security net, and now I have this, like, I was able to start a business moonlighting it, but also like getting traction right away. And then I just went full fledged into it. And I didn't really have this dread moment in corporate America, like some people have, like, that's it, my boss yelled at me, I'm out of here. I didn't have any of that. It was just kind of like the opportunity after I'd finished my work kind of showed itself. And I just remember sitting there like, I'm doing it. Now, the hard part was going from a corporate America job to, you have to pay for yourself, and then your career and all this is kind of like self-paid. So I put all of my savings into it. And the next leg of the story, maybe we get in there, maybe we don't, is I left corporate America to pay myself $25,000 the next year. So that was like my initial like transition period. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Is your wife freaking out at this time? Is she like, what are you doing? We have a good life. What are you thinking?
Yeah. Pretty much. She's very used to me. I'm always I'm always exploring. I'm always trying to help people. I'm always up to something, like I'm trying some stuff out. And she knew me like when I was doing the single family and whatnot. She knew that was like my energy and that's what I enjoyed. And I could tell like there's an element where she wanted me to find a lower gear that's not so fast, and just kind of be a little bit more steady. But like when I'm doing this, I'm like in hindsight, like I'm watching her watch me, and she already knew it. She knew I was going to do it somehow, some way. She'll tell you that she's like, I just knew it was already a thing, and so I just went with it. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But yeah, there's probably elements in time that she wanted me to slow down, and I say that because for the first 6 months, 8 months, she was my only other employee that was unpaid, and she would just show up and help me out. And like by like our 30th like apartment that we did together, she's like, "Hey, you're gonna have to start paying me. Or you're gonna have to find somebody else." And I said, "That's fair." And so she was there from day one and saw like the traction, and she understood like the pain points with it and whatnot. So in a weird way, she's probably a little bit hoping that I'd stay in corporate America, but she also dove right in with me to help me launch this thing.
Amazing. It's how fantastic to have a supportive wife who, in spite of the fear or just says, "Let's do it." It's
Yeah,
beautiful. Uh,
absolutely.
so to recap, currently your turn serve, you're dealing with multifamily owners, excuse me, multifamily property owners. So these are corporations, what, that own thousands of units or thousands of, 50 unit properties.
Yeah.
Is that right? Cool. And then
Yeah. So
oh, go
some are
ahead.
big, some are mom and pops.
Okay. And what's the smaller mom and pop that might be a client of yours? Like what
Maybe
size are
like a
we talking?
local Yeah, maybe like a local portfolio because we're in 5 cities right now. So like a local portfolio to those cities of maybe 400 units, maybe 500 is normally like our smallest, but it's such an outlier. Most of the property management companies we work with have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of doors under management.
Cool. So is your goal currently to nationwide? Are you thinking let's blow this thing up nationwide and one city at a
Yes.
time or
Yes, absolutely. Everything we built so far has built out the framework for that, the rails for that. We are innovative from our call center to our support lines to our products, our dispatching, how we find workers, everything else. We have literally, for the past 5 years, done nothing but build out a big machine that could just run everywhere as fast as we need to. And we're in a bit of a unique situation because the industry we play ball in, there's not a lot of solutions. And our clients have properties almost in every city. I mean, all these big management companies, every major metropolitan is where they're at. And so they're asking us like, hey, how soon can you guys go scale to this location for us? How soon can you guys go here? So yes, we have a sales team and they're fantastic. Shout out Thomas. But at the same time, like our manager, the clients that we do life with, they are asking us to like go into certain markets and they're selling for us in a weird way. So it's a weird conundrum, but obviously, we love it and we're down to help them.
it's interesting that the big management companies don't have this apparatus in place efficiently already.
Yeah. I think that they try. And what we have discovered is, so one, there's a huge shortage in the property management space. Employee attrition and turnover is incredibly high. The average property manager is on the job for around 8 months. And on average, it's supposed to be one maintenance personnel per 100 doors. Well, right now it's around one maintenance personnel per 250 to 300 doors. There's just a big shortage. It is a tough industry that's currently being innovative and updated and whatnot. But there's a while to go on it. And it's just a tough industry to kind of sit down and go with, because on one hand, you have high demand from the tenants that live there. You want to serve them well, work orders and whatnot. The average complex that we serve, 400 people live there. And there's probably a team of 5 people that are managing everybody there. So you can imagine when things go wrong, everybody's and just as if it would go wrong at your own house. You'd call somebody like, hey, I need this fixed ASAP. Well, you have 250 doors. That adds up a lot. And now on the one side, you're doing maintenance for your tenants. And on the other, you're trying to get apartments ready for the next tenants. And it's just, it's a high pressure gig.
Yeah. So somebody reaches out to you, or who was your sales guy? Your sales guy gets a hold of him. What's his name?
Thomas. Yeah.
Thomas.
Shout out to yes.
Shout out Thomas. So is he hearing, hey Thomas, um, turn serve sounds great, but your services seem expensive compared to handling it in-house, or we've had bad
Yeah.
experiences with third-party services before, or what do you hear out there, or what is Thomas here? Thomas is his name?
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
Thomas. Yeah, Tom. Tom's a big guy too. He's like 6'7", 6'8", nicest dude in the world. People love him to death. But what we hear constantly back is, hey, price point, you guys are, upper level price wise, top of our budget. And what we always have to do is just, educate the clients on the value of time saved using us, from the admin reduction. Loss to vacancy is a huge negative metric in the space. And if we're able to get somebody an apartment back in 3 days, whereas before it would take them 20, think of all the days of rents that they're able to collect now because they used us. So that's the normal argument, so to say. And that's what the rebuttals that we have to overcome quite a lot is a price point when it's, well, if a multifamily client or manager is outsourcing, it's always gonna be more expensive. But when you just don't have the personnel and team members to do it internally, you don't really have another option. But even if you do, your maintenance teams are better spent serving your tenants and not getting, clean outs ready and everything else. They should be serving your tenants, making the quality of life better. That's normally the rebuttals we hear, and that's normally our responses.
How about people that are saying, hey, our current system works fine, why change? But really they're like, oh, our system sucks, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Consciously
we
or
hear that
subconsciously. Go ahead.
100%, 100%. We hear that a lot, and we'll ask them, like, okay, hey, can you walk us through the process? And they'll show us some whiteboard with all the units written down on it. And they'll say hey, Johnny's coming to do the floor next week. And they'll manually write it in. And, I don't know, Clean Pro is coming out 2 weeks from now to do this. And I'm looking at their board and I'm watching them on their phone, text vendors and everything else like that. I'm like, guys, your quality of life needs to be a little bit higher. I was like, let me show you how we do it different. And I was like, get out your phone. This is my sales. When I go do it, this is my sales pitch. I literally say, get out your phone and go to this website, and they'll go to our website. Let's say it's Liquid Liner, our bathtub refinishing brand. So I said, go to liquidliner.com. And I was like, go to our scheduling portal. And they're like, okay. And they have 10 seconds committed at this point. And I say, now I want you to go to the schedule now button. And I want you to type in the unit number and your desired service date. And they'll say, got it. 15 seconds later, they have submitted that work order, and that's it. They don't need to do anything else. And I literally tell them, and then they'll get a confirmation email sent to them, and I'll get one on my phone. And I was like, cool, confirmed, you good for this date? And they'll look at me and they'll laugh. They're like, there's no way it's this easy. And I'm like, I promise you, you're so conditioned to working this hard, you don't think it's possible. I just made your life a lot easier. And they will literally say, take all of our units, here's all the move outs, they're all yours. And so there's an element, and props to these guys and these ladies, they work so hard, but they're so used to what they're familiar with. They're like, oh, there's no way that this could be changed or be updated. The thing is, this space is that outdated where a simple submission form or something similar, an automated reminder or a confirmation, to them, it's like somebody just sent them a godsend. They're like, oh, thank you for saving me hours and hours and hours. I'm like, I got you guys. So that's really the biggest thing that we have to do, and tell them that it's possible to take all that burden off of them. On average, we save a property management company, from admin time, from maintenance time to supply time, we save them over 10 hours per unit that we service for them. And that's not including the reduction in loss to vacancies. And it's all it is just through automation and email and predictable systems. And the industry looks at us like we just discovered fire.
Oh my gosh. Your system is awesome, or what you're building is perfectly teed up to make even more efficient and streamlined with AI. So are you implementing tons of AI automations?
Yes. So right now, AI enables my team to do certain things. In the very near future, my team is going to keep enabling AI to do more, right? So that's going to flip soon. Here's what I mean by that. So right now, our clients they'll manually get on their phones and submit with us. And even though that's a huge, huge innovation for them, and it's a huge quality of life item, the next phase that we're having that's going to happen is our system will automatically syndicate with their system. And so when that client updates something on their screen, automatically in the background, it is sending over work orders and saving dates and sending confirmations and everything else to ours. And our clients aren't even going to have to do any additional effort outside of the normal day in order to get done what they need done on the back end. And our system software's team, our infrastructure, our build, everything is empowering that. And then last note I'll say about that is the AI is definitely a critical part of that, but also the infrastructure and the setup has to be aligned to have that happen as well. Because if you don't have one, you have nothing without the other. And so for us, we're just trying to streamline that. And all we do, what I tell people at a high level is what we do is we sell convenience and quality of life. And as long as we stick to those things for our customers, our clients, we make an impact, we will be in high demand for time to come.
Incredible. And the ROI follows. The ROI follows. Like, it's like if all this did for you was convenience and quality of life, would you be happy? And most people are like, yes. And you're like, well, good news, because there's going to be an ROI that's going to hit you and you're going to be really excited. How much fun are you having right now building this out, doing this, serving like this?
Yeah. So right now, this phase, so I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my career. And I say that there's valleys of just despair. There's times where I'm just like staring into the abyss and like, why did I leave corporate America? Why am I doing this? But then, we have a big win and it's, we make it through that project or whatever else it might have been, or we had to revamp or realign expectations. And I'm sitting here looking at the team. I see them celebrate. I see our customers happy. I'm like, this is it. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, it's so worth it. So highs and lows. I really try to emphasize on the highs. But the reality of it is there's nights to where just like my stomach's in knots. I'm like, I have no idea how we're going to make it through tomorrow. And then tomorrow happens. Like, why was I stressing about that? So highs and lows.
The highs and lows.
Yeah.
Before we started recording this, you're like, hey, I'm actually on vacation. This is day one. So and then, we're recording this on the 4th. I believe you said until the 16th, you'll be on vacation. What does that actually look like? Are you off the grid 100%, 95%? What are we talking about?
So I can normally make it 3 days without doing anything. And then I just go crazy and I have to do something. So realistically, I took off. So today's a Wednesday. I intentionally set up today to be the start of my air quotes vacation, because I knew over the next 2 days, I'm going to have stuff trickling in and like, oh, I didn't accommodate for that. Oh, hey, like I got to button this up. I have to do that. And then next week, I'll actually start my formal-ish vacation. I still have podcasts to do and a few team events to do next week. So I won't be off the grid. I'm going to try. But the reality of it is like normally like a 3-day kind of like getaway for me normally does it for me. But I'm also wired a little bit differently. I don't dread work. I literally have to take breaks intentionally just because I love working so much. So I guess I'm a little bit different in that regard. But yeah, today's supposed to be my vacation. And I told Ashley, my wife, I said, hey, I got to go to the office. She's like, it is day one. She's like, why are you going into the office? And I said, I have to go, I have this podcast to shoot and I need the mic. And she's like, oh my gosh. So, I'll make it up later. I'll be, dad at home and all these kind of things. But yeah, I'll try to take off as much as possible.
Perfect. And Ashley's your wife? Is that what you said? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ashley, thank you. Thank you. If you listen to this, thank you.
She will.
Okay, good. So any favorite, like top of mind story of, 1,000 unit operator, multi-thousand unit operator that takes the leap with you and tell me that success story or
Yes.
yeah.
So numerous, but one that comes to immediate mind is this. So we have a very good client. We love doing life with them. We love their mission. They are actually a housing authority and they manage underserved tenants and residents and whatnot. And so a lot of voucher programs, think of Section 8 or similar programs where people in a certain class can't quite afford to live in certain areas. And they actually make it a possibility to give these places a roof over to give people a roof over their heads. And what we did, so we actually reached out to them because one of our products, liquid liner, so we actually patented it. We had it developed and it is a zero VOC bathtub refinishing brand. And what that means is, for lack of better words, is we could paint a bathtub with very thick paint, epoxy, and it'll make an old tub look brand new and you don't have to replace it or demo it or trash it. And it is just as good as from the factory. And so that's a cool product. The reason why we built that was because one of the units that we were servicing, we actually couldn't service it. We couldn't paint this unit because there was a vendor there using a spray-on application, a hazardous product. It was loud. He was in a hazmat suit. You could just tell like he really dreaded his job, and the whole hallway smelled awful. And we got linked up with fast forward, like we developed our own product, you name it, all these things. We got linked up with this housing authority, and they said, "Hey guys, we really appreciate the no spray on and the zero VOC from your product, and we want to talk to you about doing our entire portfolio." And I said, "No problem. How big's your portfolio?" And she said, 20,000 units, 20,000 apartments. And I remember sitting there, I was like, 20,000? And she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay." And like, so I'm like, I'm trying to contain myself, but this is a big win. And I just remember I asked her, I said, "Help me understand, like, how'd you hear about us and why us? I'm just curious." And she said, "Well, she said something about me on LinkedIn or something. I don't know." And she said, "But actually, we were just having a city council meeting about this because, we actually banned refinishing our bathtubs because these vendors were using hazardous VOC chemicals, and they were loud. There was air movers. These sprayers were super loud. They were dangerous. Our tenants were very concerned, and they have health conditions sometimes, and they were like interfering." And they said, "We saw your product, and we really thought it'd be a cool fit." And so sure enough, like I literally pulled it out, like I carry this thing everywhere with me, like it's candy. And I said, "Well, here," I was like, "You can smell it, you can see it, you can do all these things with it. I promise you it's third party tested, it's the best in market, and it's safe." And right away they said, "You're going to do every single one of our apartments for us." And I said, "Amazing." And so from that regard, just because we were innovative and we were pressing hard on challenging industry norms and building our own product, that's how we got one of the largest portfolios in our back pocket, was because we cared about people's safety, and it's a great product. That's one regard, and we probably saved that group. So the average price to refinish a bathtub is around $500 versus replacing it. And when you account for loss to rent, maintenance time, admin time, everything else, they spend over $4,500 to replace a bathtub. So we saved them essentially $4,000 times 20,000 units over the course of however long we're going to do these tubs for. So whatever that maths to be, we save them a substantial amount of money just with one product.
That is incredible. What cities are you rolling into now, expanding into now? Like, who's next?
Yeah. So today we are in Akron, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio. We are in Indianapolis. We are tiptoeing into Chicago, but realistically, we have an installer model going, and our product's so easy to use. Our services are so process based. Anybody could follow them. We just have a good system. And we are actually certifying installers across the US in order to use our products and our services and provide them to our clients at scale. For example, we had almost 20 installers show up to Cleveland, Ohio on our last class to get certified from us. And some of those are in Florida, some of those are in Texas, some of those are on the West Coast. So at this phase of the game, we are able to easily roll out nationwide without having to have buildings or a presence there or whatnot seamlessly. And so we are just hitting the ground running. I think that we'll probably be in 20 states within the next 3 years, to be honest with you.
Unbelievable. Are you, when someone comes to certify with you, is that a paid service where they're paying to be certified? I'm just curious from an entrepreneur model. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, so we always try to do right with people, especially people that like show up from like across the US, so to say. If they show up here, we'll accommodate for them. We'll give them housing. We'll pay for their commute here. We'll pay for the lunch, you name it. We really try to make it meaningful for them to show up. We're supposed to have a certification price that comes with getting certified. We waive that all the time. Like there's some things that we have to have optic wise for the business, but on the human side, we really try to do life with cool people. We want to be good people. And so we really try to make things as easy as possible for folks. So if somebody's interested in this, you have no experience, you have no way of getting to us, no leads, find a way to get a hold of me and we will bring you here. We will get you certified. We will send you products to use. We will pay you weekly, and you can start your own TurnServe affiliated business and provide value just like us. That's what we're trying to do across the nation right now.
That is awesome and inspiring. How do they get a hold of you? We might as well check that box.
Let's do it. So TurnServe is the main company. The easiest program to get involved with us is liquidliner.com. And that is our bathtub and towel refinishing brand. That is a business in a backpack. That's where we have that zero VOC product I was just referencing in that story. And so liquidliner.com, turnserve.com, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll find a way to get you the information if you can't already find it online. Just get a hold of us. And those are the best ways.
Amazing. And it is, by the way, Tyler Dunagin on LinkedIn. Yeah, super easy. Just go to LinkedIn, type in the search Tyler, first name, last name, Dunagin. You don't need any numbers, anything like that. So super easy to get a hold of you. Outside of these certifications and growing that way, as far as your core company, let's say maybe infrastructure wise, or who are you hiring? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. So as far as installers go, is that what you're saying? Who are you hiring?
No. So I suppose you've got the whole installer side and things like that, but I'm thinking of maybe on the corporate side of things, or.
Oh yeah. So always, I say this slightly tongue in cheek, but also realistically, we are always looking for team members that want to make an impact. And actually, a lot of my team members today, they started off with zero experience in the space, and they were just great people that want to show up and make an impact. We teach them what they need to know. And so we are always hiring around sales. We are always hiring around, branch operations, anything affiliated. Our product distribution is going to 20x here very soon too. So we have a lot around logistics and warehousing and related. And then we also have things just completely out of the blue, like software wise, that we're always working on. So in a weird way, not to be vague about it, just if you are a decent person and you want to make an impact, we want you and we'll find a spot for you. So that's the easiest way I know how to tee this up.
Amazing. Go to TurnServe, click connect with us, send an email, and the right person will hand it to you or whoever. And I love it. That is awesome. This actually led to my next question. So you mentioned you're out there doing sales, probably key moments where perhaps the right clients, or you stumble, you're at Costco and you stumble across somebody, you know how that goes, right? You're all of a sudden you're talking to an apartment manager, whatever. But
always got to be selling.
Always got to be selling. So we've got you and Tom. All this growth with you and Tom. Am I missing something? Is there more people? What's going on there?
So we do have a really good team. On the operations side, Austin runs. He's my COO. He runs everything. Austin Smith. He's fantastic. We have other team members around too. So we have a virtual call team. We have a support line. So we do have a lot of extra resources. But so shout out to the team. We use remote workers. We use in-person workers. Anybody that can do a good job. We don't care where you came from, what you look like. We will find a way to make it work. But to answer your question, like a Costco sales, always, as soon as I see a property manager, I'm right into sales mode. And I just look at him like, oh, hey, like, what are you up to? And I'll give you this last little Easter egg relating to sales. And this is kind of like an entrepreneurial kind of itch that I always do. I always wanted to have a physical product. And I was always like service-based business, right? And so we have a great relationship with Sherwin-Williams. Like, we're right in their backyard. They're a Cleveland, Ohio company. So are we. We do a lot of business and life together. They're a great team. If I'm ever close to one of their Sherwin-Williams shops, I stop in normally because I know the manager there or something. I just say hi to them. But every single time I'm there, I always ask them the same thing. And I walk into them. And I love it when it's somebody new. And I say, hey, do you have any of that liquid liner product around here? And they'll say, no, what's that? And I get to sell my product again. It just sounds fun. They don't sell it or carry it today. It's only available through us, but I just stop in no matter what. Ashley thinks it's the most hysterical / dumb thing in the world that I do. I just can't help myself.
That is so good. I have a friend, Erston, who's been in the property management business for 20 years. And for the last 10, he's been like, I need to get out of property management. So Erston, I know you're going to listen to this. Reach out to Tyler. Like, you're a perfect fit for these guys. They will find a spot for you.
I got you. Reach out to me.
Email list, stuff like that. Are you building that out as well? Hence the Dunagin Collective, or?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to build on that website. It's very minor. It's early in its journey. I'm not really like, pushing it quite yet, but I want to build out a list of entrepreneurs. But then also, in my platform, we're actually getting into M&A and like trying to acquire service-based businesses. So I'm trying to get a lot of, mom and pops or similar that want to follow me and look for advice, but also like I could reach out to them like, hey, if you're ever thinking about selling your business, we'd love to talk to you. Here's what we can do.
I love that, man. What a great vision. It's and so many of those I think the numbers are staggering of the amount of mom and pop businesses that are that are aging out, and those businesses have nowhere to go.
Yeah, exactly. They call it the silver tsunami. The biggest wealth transition in history is going on, and we see it all the time. And the sad part is, a lot of these businesses aren't really built to be sold right now. I would say 90% that are like going to be done once the owner is gone or retired. They're just going to have to close the door. And so for us, an example, what we do on our platform, we'll find a small painting company and it's one owner and his wife and somebody else, right? And they are the accountants, they are the painter, they are the salesperson, you name it. Our offer to them is, hey, we'll give you some cash up front. We'll give you some phantom equity in this thing. So you have some long-term upside as well. And you can come in and you have an office job with us. Just help us like engage your clients and be a sales rep for us. Put down the paintbrush. Don't chase any dollars anymore. And also like when we sell this thing for $1 billion, your phantom equity is going to be worth $1 million. So here you go. So that's our whole value proposition in getting in front of people and treating them right, but also growing the company exponentially.
That's awesome. Exit strategy. So I'm guessing I know this answer already. It sounds like there's no retiring to golf for you.
Probably not. I just had too much fun. I do like to golf. I do a lot of sales on the golf course, but like I think the way I've structured this, I've literally structured it with the end in mind, right? And what I mean by that is I want to be able to pull out some of the subsidiaries of the brands and either sell those off to bring in value or bring in partners at that certain level. The way our holdings is, so we have the parent company overhead and then we have subsidiaries underneath. Example, apartmentpainters.com is its own subsidiary. Apartmentflooring.com is its own. And so where I'm going with that is if we ever needed to shed one of the brands because it no longer was a direct fit or there was a better partner to bring more value to clients, we could pull it out that way. But realistically, long story short, I don't know that I could ever just sit around and just watch the ocean. That sounds good in bursts, don't get me wrong. But I can never see myself not doing something. I don't even know what I would do, to be honest with you.
I figured that was the answer, but I like your thoughtful vision of how you're moving forward and building what you're building. Let's call this a rapid fire round. Your favorite productivity tool?
Product, could I give a blanket answer of just AI now?
I love it.
So I do think AI is, I use it every day, but realistically, one tool that I use a 3 bucket system. I have a whiteboard right next to me. It's actually a blackboard and I use white ink, but we'll call it a whiteboard. And I actually write down 3 buckets and one I have to do that day, one I'd like to do within the next month, and one I like to do long term. And it's my vision board. And every day, every week, every month, I try to at least check off the boxes in one of the boxes in bucket 2 or 3. But then I write down my day to day in bucket 1. And before I do anything else, I just hit the ground running. And I absolutely have to know what I'm doing the next day. Before I leave the office, even today on my vacation, I'm going to write down my to-do list. So next time I'm here, I'm like, what I have to do before I sit down, I already know what I have to go and do. And I'm able to tackle those things versus letting them live in my head for hours and hours and dreading them and letting them become big. I have to visualize it visually, like right on my whiteboard.
Awesome. You may have already mentioned it, but the most influential book you've ever read?
Yeah. So actually, so the one I mentioned earlier, Deep Work by Cal Newport, definitely a very good one. However, the number one book I always recommend, the book that truly helped me take this catapult in entrepreneurship and then grow as a manager, then as a leader, then as a CEO, and do all these things. You absolutely have to read the book As a Man Thinketh, and that is a short read. It is all about psychology. I read that book probably once a quarter. I read that book probably 20 times, when I was still starting my companies. As a Man Thinketh, I believe, is it, I read the book so much, I should know the author. I think it's James Allen.
James
Is that,
Allen.
yeah, James Allen.
Yep.
So, that's a quick read. Highly recommend. you might have an hour into that book and it will change your life.
Fantastic. That's just the nugget we're looking for. One word to describe your leadership style.
Ooh, leadership style. Okay, I thought you were going to ask me one word to describe me. I had that one ready. My leadership style is quite the opposite of what I was going to say. I would say I'm going to call it supportive, but I want to asterisk that, and I want to say um, I am all for empowering people and helping them no matter what. Sometimes supporting is also challenging in a healthy way too. And I want to say that as well. Helping people get over hurdles or break through self-imposed ceilings. Support can look like many things. And I always do it out of empathy and care for my team. But also I know sometimes when to pull, I know sometimes when to push a little bit. But I would say supportive is who I am as leader.
I love that. And that some people need broader guidelines, like open up the gates for them. Some people need rein in those rein in those guardrails, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, let's follow this up with the one word to describe you.
I Ashley hates when I say this. I describe myself as just relentless is the only way I know how to say it. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. I'm not out to like step on people or anything like that. I relentlessly want to do what I feel I want to do and be who I want to be, not out of like rebellion or anything like that, just because like I just want to work on like what I want to work on. I want to make the impact I want to make. And no matter what happens, there's all this like, big red flashing signs, the news is going on, there's all of these distractions in the world. I just zero in, and no matter whatever else is going on, it doesn't matter. I'm relentlessly going to pursue whatever I want to pursue. And that's how I just describe myself, just relentless.
I love it. Your enthusiasm is literally infectious.
Thank you.
Yes. Your go-to activity to unwind after a busy week.
Absolutely nothing. And stillness is my best friend. So I live around a farm, and when I'm at home, I get a little bonfire going. I have my family around it, and we stare at the bonfire, we share laughs, and we just stare at the stars. Just a whole lot of stillness is what my favorite activity to unwind.
That is beautiful. That is
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is so good. Okay. In 30 seconds or less, football's impact on what you do.
Oh, very much so impactful. Taught me a lot about competition, helped me push my boundaries, helped me find the edge and go over it and then realize that there's more to go. I would say that, and it also taught me how to be coached. And I think that taking direction and even sometimes when that's pushing or pulling, understanding that the other person wants you to win and interpret that as motivation and just teamwork and everything else around that has amplified who I am as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, organized sports. I think in the so many entrepreneurs come out of, or that I see come out of that competitive environment and that fire, and the mentors that you have access to obviously are so impactful. I mean, you could probably spend a half an hour rolling through them. We don't need to, but we'll press on. Um, what's a question about your industry or journey that you wish people would ask more often?
Um, I think a lot of people always ask me about the opportunity, right? And it depends on how you skin this. I think that they should really focus on what are the struggling points. Like if people understood the hardship with our customers and our property managers that we do life with, they would have a little bit more understanding and empathy for sometimes how things shake out in that space. So I would say probably one of the biggest things is what are the hardest things about the industry? And a lot of people instead, it's normally shaped another way. Like, hey, like where could I make the most money in the space? Is it software? Is it this or this? I wish that more people would start on the supportive side of the street, so to say. But it would also lead them to some of those opportunities that they want to talk about and do.
Awesome. I have my bonus questions, Volt. So I'm going to fire a few at you quick from there.
Let's do it.
What's a decision you made that nearly jeopardized your business?
Oh, man, if my team was here, they'd tell you about 50. They'd be yelling at the mic right now. And so I think that I'm struggling to pull one out. I have one for you. I was trying to make sure this is the best one. This is the most recent one. So not saying this is the best, but this is the most recent. One thing that jeopardized us. So when we came out with our product business, keep in mind, we got private equity back last year. We're doing a lot of cool things. we were relaunching our product business for scale, coming up with this dealer model, you name it. And I had to make a decision on, man, like we have all this growth capital. We're doing some amazing things right now. We're spending a ton of resources in our patent and getting dealer certified and all these kind of things. And we had 3 other brands going. I had to, at the time, I thought I was closing down those brands indefinitely to focus on one. And what I realized is our clients need help all across the board. And so luckily, we took a 3-month hiatus from doing full turnkey services, so to say. And our clients luckily welcomed us back and said, hey, we miss you guys. Come help us all across the board. But you can imagine shutting down 3 out of 4 of your companies to focus on one, everything that goes into that. Although it was a strategic decision and we talked with our CFO around those things and whatnot, that was a very tough pill to swallow. And dealing with some of the just having to stomach that we're not able to support our clients as much as we could have, that is what I would say probably jeopardized us the most, because we just want to be there for our customers at the end of the day. And I think that threw a wrench in that in our approach with that, it was just tough to deal with. But that was all on me. At the end of the day, no one else's decision but my own to pull that, and I almost, for lack of better words, completely just messed it up.
Share a personal failure that taught you your most valuable life lesson or insight.
Got it. I would go back to single family real estate. I would in one element, I would say I failed at doing that at high scale, right? There's people across the US, across the world that really thrive in single family, and they could do these house flips, and they come up with a system and whatnot. I was early in my journey. I was young. I didn't know how to delegate. I didn't know how to measure. I didn't know how to do anything. And I was that cog. I was literally everything. And at the time, I really had failed to be a good manager, like, because I was the employee. I was everybody. And I would say in a weird way that, and my lack of ability to really just branch that and scale that, is what led me to get into multifamily. And had I been okay, had I knew how to delegate better, and if I knew how to manage people better and manage projects better, like all these kind of things, I probably would have stuck it out. But because I wasn't able to do those things outright all across the board, I ended up walking away. So at the time, it was a big failure, but it led me to what I've started today.
Good one. If you could change one thing about the business world, what would it be?
Not so cutthroat. There's a lot of, hey, it's just business. Hey, it's just business. I like the approach where it's people supporting people, right? And there's partnerships. It doesn't mean that it's all feel good and charitable and whatnot. There's still decisions to be made that might not be great for everybody. And I understand that. But I really think that at the end of the day, if it was more so a partnership approach and it was vulnerability on both sides and just collaboration on both sides versus who can get the better deal, I think the world and the industry would be a much better place if it was more collaboration.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Man, I'm a huge history buff. There's so many people that I'd want to talk to. I would say, man, there's so many. Like I want to say like the big titans. I want to say Rockefeller. I want to say all these guys. I'm actually going to pick on Carnegie. I'd want to have dinner with Carnegie only because I'm curious about. So he had a service business and he had a steel business, right? And steel wasn't a thing. I just want to ask him, like, how does he feel in that moment, that aha moment when he realized what steel could be? Because I know for sure when he was in that moment and he saw everything going on, he saw it before everybody else did. He was probably, guys, this is going to change the world. And everybody around him just naysaying, like, no, you're crazy. That's not good. Hey, like, go see a doctor. Like there's probably so many people counting him out. And I would just, it wouldn't have to be a full dinner. I could just do with a general greet and like explain that feeling to me when you knew and no one else did. How did you have the confidence to keep going? And what did it feel like when it finally clicked together all the way? So Andrew Carnegie, that's my today answer. It might be somebody else tomorrow. It'd be cool to hang out with Henry Ford and all these other titans and whatnot, but Carnegie today.
Hey, it'll be awesome if you have a dream tonight. Carnegie's in there,
Oh,
right?
I hope so. Man, I'll let you know if I do. I hope I do.
Amazing. What belief have you held on to that no longer serves you?
Probably limited mindsets, right? And here's what I mean by that. There's times to where I think that I could fly to outer space, right? And that's just a lot of that's ego, and a lot of these things are just full steam ahead. But every now and then when I have a ton on my plate, and if I really stop and think about it too much, there's times where I literally tell myself, like I get imposter syndrome sometimes, like, hey man, like you can't do this. Like what are you trying to do here? Like you're trying to pull 10 rabbits out of this hat. Like no way this is possible. So there's times where I challenge things in a healthy way. I'm like, hey, like what are the hardships here? What's the probability of success? But there's also times where I lean into that too far and I convince myself sometimes like, oh, that's impossible. Although it's in short bursts and it serves me in a weird way, that's one thing that I've been trying to realistically kind of get out of. And the higher level business I get, we've done some cool things. Like we've scaled into 5 cities. We got private equity backed. I'm trying to do all these cool things. We have the best in class product, you name it. But there's still times where I'll think of an idea. I'm like, oh no, like that'd be crazy. That's way too big. I'm like, hold on, man. Like remind yourself, like, what have you done so far? You've done some cool things. But that limited mindset is probably one. It tells me to tap the brakes, which is probably healthy, but there's other times where like it really just like I lean on it too much as an excuse. And I have to remind myself like, hey, don't let that noise get you. You just got to keep on going here.
Good. 2 more questions and then we'll call it good.
Okay.
All right. Reflecting on your days with TurnServe, what advice would you give yourself now?
I would say the first one is keep going. That is the number one thing. And you're not always going to have the answers, like you're not always going to feel comfortable and secure and whatnot. I would really encourage, especially my younger self, like you don't need to know everything. You don't need to know 10 out of 10 things. You just need to be relentless in your pursuit of it and do it for the right reasons. Keep going is what I'd tell my younger self. And things have a very creative way of falling into place how they should. Maybe not always how you wanted, but they have a tendency to come together.
Love it. All right. Finally, have you got to do anything with David Heller?
So outside of just conversations and all these kind of things, not much. He hosts a lot. He's the chair of a lot of boards, all these kind of things. He's involved with a lot of programs. I get to go to some of the charity events that he's a part of, which is really cool. I would say as far as business goes, when I went to him initially, it was about doing a potential residential deal together at scale. And that's actually what led to the conversations. And so we got close before, but he ended up coming back and say, hey, residential is too small. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm saying as well. So we didn't quite get to launch as a business together at that time. My companies have done work for his properties on the other end. So on that side of the street, yes. But on the entrepreneur, founder, business owner side of the street, no. But I'm okay with being a vendor for him and also going to some of his charity events.
Amazing. So it's so nice that you support him in that way after he clearly got you on this big leg of your life journey.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done so much for me. He doesn't even realize it. I think that's kind of the coolest part. And that's who he is, to be honest with you. And he expects nothing out of it, which is crazy to me.
Tyler, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about you, TurnServe, and your services?
Yeah, so I'm active on a lot of social medias. Just my name, Tyler Dunagin. DunaginCollective.com is where I kind of show out my personal interest, business interest, and I'm putting together a small group of entrepreneurs just as a kind of a way to bounce ideas and support one another. So DunaginCollective.com on the one side, engage with me. I'm always down to meet. I have nothing to gain with it, just want to make an impact as much as possible. And then on LinkedIn, I'm very present as well. And then TurnServe.com if you want to get a hold of my businesses for anything else at all. LinkedIn is your best bet, bar none, to get a hold of me.
Fantastic. And Dunagin is spelled Dunagin. Tyler Dunagin.
I was going to say, if you say that last name fast enough, no matter what you are, you'll sound Irish. So that's a good way to say it, or remember it, I should say.
Dunagin.
See,
there we go. All right. That's a wrap on this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. A big thank you to Tyler Dunagin for sharing his insights and experiences. If this episode sparked something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and check out TurnServe's website and DunaginCollective.com. And of course, link up with Tyler on LinkedIn to learn more, to continue the conversation. Until next time, stay focused, stay bold, and let's go speak on some podcasts. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. For resources to help you sell your stuff, go to belove.media belove.media/resources. That's belove.media/resources. And be sure to subscribe, comment, 5-star, and share. Thank you again for listening.